I was just tired of people just complaining about how rubbish often, not always, but often Christian singles events are. And as soon as you label it as that, people are out. Like, lots of people are out. I fell into this whole thing totally accidentally, and I'm like, yeah, you can call me Hitch if you want, but don't label me anything else, thank you very much.
You are tuned into Season with Salt, where we discuss all things relating to being Christian and single and dating. And today I am joined by Ali Gillum, who is going to talk to me about the art of introducing single people and matchmaking and the best way to go about it. And a lot of the people I've spoken to have said, like, actually the church they're in doesn't seem to provide many options. Either that there are single people who are in like the right age range to potentially explore dating, but just a handful, and actually it's just friendship between them, and that's not really an option. What's been your experience of that?
I think what happened, I think there's one of the problems is, like, kind of working back a little bit, one of the problems is there's a real lack of culture of honour, and there's no space to date well and to date healthily, because the girls, and it's like a cyclical thing where the girls are disappointed because they're not asked out on dates, and so they then put too much pressure on the dates, and then the men are basically feel like, I don't know if intimidated is the right word, but they feel that when they ask, so hypothetically, if they asked a girl out, the girl and the boy went on a couple of dates, the girl then overshares with too many of these girls because she's excited about going on dates with this boy. And so she tells a lot of people, and she pins too much of her hopes on these coffees that she's going on, these drinks, these dinners, whatever the dates are. Then if the boy decides, actually, do you know what, she's a great girl, but like, I don't feel this, I'm not in this, and ends it, maybe, well, maybe not, who knows, but ends it, she then has shared with all these people, and she then shares her disappointment with all these people. All these girls then label that boy as, oh, he's the villain, he's the one that's caused all this heartbreak. So I think that actually, yes, we can kind of come up with programs, we can come up with ways of mixing people up and setting people up and whatever, but I also think that there's this thing around, if we were more intentional with this culture of honour and just honouring boys and being like, a date is a date at the end of the day, and like, it's going for a coffee. I mean, my brothers always say to me, go and have that free drink, like, happy days.
I've definitely heard that, where somebody feels really scorned and it actually just sounds like it didn't work out. Yeah,
totally. And also I think that that's, when we look at the art of setting people up, the art of introducing people, taking that step back from there. So when you seek to introduce people and they are being intentional to practice this honour and to kind of date with honour, then I actually think that the experience and how that's going to play out will look really different to us just saying, cool, we just want to introduce people, we need to introduce people, how are we going to introduce people? That's almost like we've got to take a step back from there, and that's part of the reason why I think that dating is clogged up in the church.
It's not just that churches are like lacking in people to meet and date. It's actually just that our approach to dating is a little off-key.
Well, I think so. And I think ultimately it's really hard to create good spaces to introduce people. And it's, I mean, you're either someone who says, a single person in the church who is like, everyone tries to set me up with anyone, and like, they often get excited about people. So I think some people are like over set up, and then other people are like, oh, I'd love to be set up, but no one says that they've got any single friends for me. And then there's people in between.
That is so true. I've got a friend who he's offered to be set up so often that now he has to almost filter through these offers and say, like, okay, but why do you think will work? Not just she's single, she's Christian, she's around my age. Actually, have you seen something that you think is a common interest or blah, blah, blah? Because he doesn't want to be rude to these people with great intentions, but it's getting too much. Whereas on the other hand, when I was researching for the book and I was talking to single people, particularly single women, said that they are just not set up enough. Yeah. And they really, that's one thing they would so encourage married people to do, is to introduce them to the other single people they know. And don't just assume like, oh no, those two wouldn't get on, because you just don't really know. And if you just put all those people in a room, I think that you'd be surprised. Yeah. I've tried to set people up before, right? I messaged them and said, you know, it seems to me that you guys would get on, but you haven't met. I'd love to introduce you. Are you happy to do it completely blind? They both agreed to go in blind, which I thought was really cool. Yeah, they were just like, right, you say he's fun, you say she's fun. I'll turn up and it's not going to be a terrible evening, even if it's not like romance. And then I arranged the meeting point. So I didn't even give them WhatsApps, because then you get the little picture. Nice. I'm like, no, you can't have a WhatsApp picture. I told the other what each would be wearing, and I got them to meet, this is so cliche, but I'm not even sorry, under the big clock in Waterloo. So when they met, they had to send me a selfie of the two of them. I tried to get him to have a red carnation, but he refused. It was like, no, Lauren, calm down.
Yeah, I think that's good. He wasn't like
he stood his ground. He stood his ground.
But I also, but I like the way that their first interaction was an admin of like date, because I've tried to set people up and then they've had like diary tennis and then they didn't
Thursday and then you just let it fizzle. So I was like, no, these are his days, these are her days. This is when you're meeting. And then I booked for them to go to a cocktail bar with like board games.
Nice.
And I actually did call the bar to see if I could like buy them a drink, so when they arrived there'd be a drink waiting for them, and I was going to get her like a really lovely like glass of prosecco and him like a ridiculous drink like a Midori sour. But they wouldn't do it for me. They said I couldn't pay for them over the phone or something, which was a shame, but I still told them about it, so it's kind of like I did it, the intention. I got the points for trying. And they both were like, oh, that was so fun, thanks so much. But I think I did that because I was compensating, because the first time I set someone up, it went so badly. So like Joey in Friends, do you watch Friends?
Yeah, but
when he's like, he agrees to set Phoebe up with someone and she says she will as well, and then he forgets, and on the day he's in the coffee shop and he's like, Mike, and then like this guy pops up and he's like, that'll do. I effectively did that. In that I had swapped numbers with someone on Salt ages before, never went on a date with them. In fact, I don't think I even messaged them, and then I just dropped him a message and was like, you seem really fun, can I send you on a date with my friend? He agreed, and he was like a little bit rude, a bit standoffish, like not very kind to her. And afterwards she was like, did you know he was like that? And then I had to admit that I hadn't even met him.
If you're enjoying what you're seeing, don't forget to like and subscribe. The Salt YouTube channel releases regular videos designed to encourage, inspire and entertain Christians.
Have you ever handpicked a match successfully?
No.
I thought you were about to claim one then, like, well, I did see.
No, yeah. There are still people I'm like, you really should meet, and I'm still working away at it. So I've got some...
What, like they're saying no?
They're just being a bit... I think people are just often a bit hopeless. And I don't know whether... I think some people just think like they don't want to come across as too desperate. And you're like, it's not desperate. Like, I just want to introduce you to people.
The reason why I thought you'd be great for this conversation is that you've kind of taken that model and switched it up. And I've been to the events that Ali organises, which are called +1 dinners, which started off in New York, moved over to London, and I'm just going to tell you what Ali does, right? Because I'm sort of talking to you, but it's like, you can say it, I'm going to tell you. So what Ali does is she invites it's different size groups, and obviously COVID has seriously restricted and for a long time put a stop to these or moved them outdoors. But so I guess ideally maybe 12 men, 12 women in a reasonable sort of catchment age together. So maybe like between 26 and 32 or something. and you just kind of put them in a room, and you don't go like, oh, and blah blah's here for blah blah, and we'll make sure that this happens. And I thought it was a really good answer to that. And also there's a part of it, because what you do currently, your format is sort of like invite only. It feels quite special.
I was just tired of people just complaining about how rubbish often, not always, but often Christian singles events are. And as soon as you label it as that, people are out. Like, lots of people are out.
Use the word Christian singles.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to organise those. So like, I fell into this whole thing totally accidentally, and I'm like, yeah, you can call me Hitch if you want, but don't label me anything else, thank you very much. I like love creating tables. I love pottering around, doing the flowers, doing the candles, like making it the space look curated and beautiful, and but also not too intimidating and not too perfect. Like, there's definitely like that line where it's a bit chaotic, the stuff doesn't match, it's all a bit like random. We just beg, borrow, steal from anywhere and everywhere to create the space. People just want to gather in a space that's, yes, curated, but not try hard, and like they can just be themselves and they don't have to be performing in any way. It's this thing of like, we'll just create the room, invite the people, and also I think that there's something about not, so people don't buy a ticket, because I think as soon as you pay money to buy a ticket, you're like, what's my return of investment? Like, okay, so I've spent like, I don't know, 30 quid on this thing, I expect 2 numbers by the end of the night or whatever. And I just think that's an unhelpful dynamic to creating this room where you just want to introduce people.
I think it is great just to get lots of people who are, you know, all single, all in that same place, in a room together. And it's fine if it doesn't result in a relationship, but a lot of people, particularly in churches, feel surrounded by couples. So just to, you know, just to sort of breathe and be around other people and make friends or more, you know, is really, just really nice. Thank you so much for coming and telling us about it and sharing our somewhat unsuccessful histories with matchmaking, but highly successful on your part, you know, evenings and stuff. And I think hopefully it will encourage people to just gather more people together in their area and their church as well. If you've liked what you've seen, don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can keep up to date with all the content on the Salt YouTube channel. And we'll see you next week.